Okay, let's do a Redefining God update. See where we are in the big economic collapse scheme, I guess, on the blog called Redefining God. Okay, so Global Agenda Watch 2015 Update 20. The Establishment Strategy for Electing Rand Paul. That's what his theory is. They're going to get these rebels in there. That's where the big change may come from. Anyways, now that Rand Paul, this is him writing, Chris, I guess his name is, the chosen candidate for the Rockefeller/BRICS New World Order, has officially entered the race for president. Both his campaign and the mainstream media have been offering previews of how the globalist will sell him to the public. His campaign is presenting him as the anti-establishment candidate. This is reflected in his campaign slogan, "Defeat the Washington Machine, Unleash the American Dream." As he presents himself in this light, the mainstream media will attack him in a ham-fisted manner. That's the plan. They do it on purpose. Ham-fisted. With one hand, the mainstream media will attempt to tie him to the extreme views of his father, Ron Paul, which will actually enhance his popularity with the frustrated electorate. And with the other hand, they will distort his views in such an obvious way that their attacks will come across as unfair in the public eye. As they fling each absurd allegation at Rand, they will effectively serve him with softballs that he can knock out of the park with his rebuttals. This is all a plan. They're going to do it this way. This is what they want to do to get him in there. They'll pretend to smear him, and these will be easy ones for him to counter. The public will thus perceive him as being under severe attack by the establishment, and they will see him effectively defeating the attacks and making the attackers look like fools. All this will cement his image as an outsider who strikes fear into the heart of the Washington Machine. Of course, it's all a show. Simultaneously, the press will present heavy coverage of Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton candidacies. The right-leaning press will present Jeb as the Republican frontrunner while highlighting the Clintons' many scandals, and the left-leaning press will present Hillary as the Democratic frontrunner while highlighting the Bush's many scandals. This will serve to generate a feeling of disgust among the public at the prospect of facing yet another Bush-Clinton presidential ballot. In fact, the media will present articles on this subject to further foster the seeds of discontent within the public mind. And he shows some articles that do that. Faced with the situation of having the Washington Machine's tainted candidates shoved down their throats again, the public will be looking for a credible outsider who offers to defeat the Washington Machine and unleash the American dream. And once the economic crisis hits and the mainstream media pillory the Federal Reserve, which means take them to task, pillory the Federal Reserve for causing it, that's what he believes, Chris believes the plan is. They're going to make the Federal Reserve be the fall guy. Mr. Audit the Fed will look like a genius, which Audit the Fed genius would be Rand Paul, so there you go. Make him look like a freaking genius, and then off we go with the new kind of government. Okay, so that was way back there. That was on one of the older updates. It's interesting how he shows in even a previous update how they take these libertarian candidates by the press and attack them, or try to appear to attack them, but actually they're promoting them. You know, like there's no press is bad press. So they are actually, even though it appears that they are attacking these libertarian people, really they're promoting them and making them look good. So it's interesting how they do that. Okay, so now we're Globalist Agenda Watch, update 21 to 23, more aspects of America's September-October shitstorm. He deletes out the I in shitstorm, but I don't do that. This is kind of a breakdown of how he thinks the collapse is going to be unfolded. He says, I stumbled upon this article at the Economic Collapse blog today, and then I came across this, and it's a United Nations Summit to adopt the post-2015 development agenda. So the UN is getting ready, and they're going to have giant meetings about what we should do with this world. And how we should go forward. And okay, I'll skip down. Essentially, he says, it is a meeting to publicly launch the New World Order. Look to the left side of the page. The steps of the post-2015 process are given. And the next step is the follow-up and review meeting, which concludes on May 22nd. This is followed by a 3-stage intergovernmental negotiations on the outcome document, process, which begins on June 22nd. A lot of 22s there, huh? Speaking of 22s, recall from update 9 on his blog here that the Pope is scheduled to arrive in Washington on September 22nd, specifically in the evening. I wouldn't be surprised if his plane landed at twilight, thus symbolizing the twilight of American global leadership. If that's not enough symbolism for you, he will address the UN General Assembly in the morning, the dawn of a new day, on September 25th. Guess how many days later? 3 days later. Sound familiar at all to you? Anyways, this symbolically mimics Jesus' death and resurrection. The American-led interim New World Order will die on the cross on September 22nd, and the UN-led New World Order will be resurrected on the 3rd day. My, how the elite love their silly little bullshit, he says. Okay, so update 22. The next financial crisis may publicly begin on June 4th, he believes. Okay, so mark that on your calendar. It may start on June 4th. As you may have noticed in the news, Greece has had to raid their IMF piggy bank in order to make their May 11th payment to the IMF. With Athens trying to scrape together, this is from the article, scrape together all public cash reserves to pay pensions and wages this month. The method used to make the IMF payment underlined the government's prediction. Greece drew on reserves from the IMF that are denominated in special drawing rights, SDRs, a basket of international currencies, which a Greek central bank official said was done with the fund's approval. The account must be replenished within weeks. Okay, so now back to Chris. So not only must the Greeks replenish the piggy bank within weeks, they must also make dramatically higher payments to the IMF and the European institutions over the next 2 months. I found this schedule of Greek payments on Zero Hedge. So I'm going to skip down to the breakdown, but we're talking about billions of dollars here. It's crazy. Or euros, actually. So here are the amount of Greek external payments in millions of euros. In May, they're going to have to pay 768 million euros. In June, 1,573 million euros, so that's $1.5 billion. And in July, 4 billion euros. Greece had to scrape the bottom of their financial barrel to make this month's 768 million euro payment. So how are they going to come up with twice as much between June 4th and June 18th and replenish their IMF account to boot? How will they manage to pay their crushing July payments, barring the rumored advance payment on the Russian pipeline? They won't be able to do it. So the financial train wreck that will kick off the next phase of the economic crisis will likely occur in the June 4th to June 18th time frame. Okay, that's what he thinks. We'll see. With this in mind, let's have a look at the Federal Reserve's FOMC meeting schedule. Yeah, one in June, July, September, October, December. Okay, but the two that have press conferences are in June and September. Okay. It's notable that the June and September meetings are associated with a summary of economic projections and a press conference by the chair. Since the public has been told that the Fed's decision to raise interest rates will be data dependent, and since Yellen will want to give a speech when the increase occurs, these two meetings are the most likely times for the Fed to push the button, which I assume means raise interest rates, which will supposedly be the big mistake that causes the big mess. So how will this play into what is happening in Europe right now? Based on what I see, Chris sees, my best guess is that Greece will default in June and thus kick off a wave of fallout events over the following months. The Greeks will then go to the BRICS summit in early July to join the BRICS Bank and restart their economy with the drachma and BRICS loans. Okay, seems likely. We've already seen the globalist plant the seed for this in the public mind, and he has links to the stuff that puts that in your mind. With all this in motion, the Fed will then trigger the new Lehman moment, which is a collapse moment, with a September rate hike. Okay? This means the world will be in serious crisis right before the Pope and the UN meet on September 25th, setting the stage for that fancy-dancy meeting. The heroes will be in place to save the day. UN, hero. And plus you got libertarian people ready to go in the next election. So I'm curious to see how Iran feels about the UN. I wonder how that's going to go. I will encourage you to have your emergency preparations in place by the end of May, because that's just before June, and to maintain a full readiness posture through September. Don't be afraid, though. Remember, it's all a show. It is all a show. So I won't be afraid, and I may or may not stock up extra. We'll see. Probably will. I almost always do. So he says, get ready before June. And then we'll see what happens in between now and the end of September. And more aspects of America's September-October shitstorm. In light of the New World Order meeting at the UN on September 25th to the 27th, It is illuminating to consider two dates that closely follow it. 4 days after the meeting, on October 1st, the U.S. government begins its new fiscal year, and the establishment have set up conditions for another 2013-style government shutdown. So we will be right in the sweet spot for another government shutdown scare. They have positioned the political parties for another non-election year budget showdown over Obamacare and divisive issues, just like in 2013. Anyways, skipping down, it says, given this setup, there is a very high probability that this shutdown will occur. It would set the stage for the next big event. Just 8 days after the likely shutdown, the IMF World Bank Group hold their annual meeting. And at this meeting, we are likely to see the globalists add China's currency to the SDR and bypass the U.S. veto to enact long-delayed governance reforms. The combination of the economic crisis, publicly attributed to the Federal Reserve's policies, and a government shutdown caused by partisan bickering will provide the perfect pretext to finally end American leadership of the IMF, World Bank /UN. Needless to say, these organizations have never really been American-led. They've always been bankster/globalist-led, with America serving as the temporary vehicle for consolidating power. The globalists launched the whole "it's time for a de-Americanized world" propaganda theme in the wake of the last U.S. shutdown. U.S. government shutdown. Will they now finish the job with the next shutdown? Let's hope so. Let's get this drama rolling. And that's how he sees it. So, June 4th, and then it plays out through the end of the year. So, he thinks the Fed is going to press the interest rate button in September, and everything will go to pot. So we'll just have to sit back and see how that plays out. Maybe now that, it hasn't happened yet, but eventually, this sort of thing does happen, right? Eventually. So that's a recap of the Redefining God updates. In case you're interested in what may happen this year, maybe. All right, good luck. Don't fall for any hoaxes, because it's happening. Good day.